Hi everybody, this is Ellie. Thanks so much for joining me today for a video where I share my bullet journal key or the signifiers that I use in my planner. I've had some questions about this over the years, so I figured it would be fun to sit down and do an updated list and also share how you'll see these signifiers in my actual planning. I've mentioned this before, but once I was done with my schooling and my academic planners, the first planner I picked up, well, it wasn't a planner at all. It was an A5 size Leuchtturm, and I dove into the bullet journal method. I'm sure most of you are very familiar, but it was created by Ryder Carroll, and that is where the basis of my key started. So you'll see here, even on his end pages, he has all of the signifiers. And just to start with, you will see the example he gives here. So Ryder's definition of signifiers are symbols used to highlight specific entries to give them additional context. Signifiers are placed in front of bullets so they stick out from the rest of your list, making them easy for the scanning eye to locate. I have used his kind of base or original signifiers, and I have also added my own custom bullets to work with my style of planning and memory keeping. So let's get right into it. If you've been following me for a while, I don't think anything here will be a surprise to you. But like I said, I will just have it all in one space for the first time in a couple of years, actually. And if you have any specific questions or anything, you can feel free to ask in the comments. I'm going to use my Pilot Acroball pen for this. I have been using this since April when I moved into my Papertess designs. And I also like to do a little bit of color coding as well with my signifiers. So this pen lets me do that because it has the black ink, which is my default, as well as the blue and red, which I will use as you will see. So the first signifier, and the one that I use the most often probably, is the task signifier. So for the task, I just do a dot, and that is right from the bullet journal method. You'll see this is where I do my tasks, which will bring me to my next one. When my task is completed, I will just mark it off with an X. Now, if I need to migrate or schedule a task, that is when I will use what I consider the arrows. They're not technically arrows. What are they? Chevrons? To indicate that. So if I am migrating a task to the next day, I will do what I consider a forward-facing arrow. So that is migrated, and I will do this for anything that I want to get done as soon as possible. It's not day specific. I just want to keep it fresh in my mind, so I will move it from daily log to daily log. And that's one of the things I love about the bullet journal system. I know it can get repetitive, but keeping it fresh like that in my mind helps me either get to it and actually do it, or realize that it's irrelevant and I don't need to worry about it. So if I do have a task and I realize that I don't need to get it done as soon as possible, if it's better to plan for a specific day or just sometime in the future, I will do this arrow facing what I consider backwards. And I believe at some point I read that because the future log is traditionally in the front of a bullet journal, that is where this arrow is pointing, because if I'm not migrating it from day to day, I think the bullet journal method suggests that you put it in the future, in your future log, whenever you do plan to get to it. I'm not using a future log like that in here, but if I have scheduled this for weeks in advance or a different month, then I will do this signifier, and usually I will just put anything like that that's scheduled in advance in pencil in whatever month I need to do it in. So these are all still right from Ryder's system. This next one though is one that I have added just for myself, and that is a signifier for a partially completed task or something that I've started but haven't yet finished. And that is just kind of a little squiggle line like that. I considered doing kind of one half of the X, but it wasn't different enough for my eye when I was scanning my page to notice. So I know when I have this signifier, I can still write the same task the next day, or I might be able to break it down more specifically. If this task said something like go through closet, which is too vague to begin with, but maybe it said go through closet, and I started it, so I did this. The next day's task might be something much more specific, like go through pants or go through dresser. So it just helps me to see that I am making progress and to build on that. The next signifier I will share is a note signifier. So I just use the dash for, well, anything that is a note. So anything really that I want to jot down or remember, something I've been learning, something I did. On this page here, I see I made a note of when I played in my first chapters journal and ran out of ink. This here is, finding out that a friend's father had passed away. So I will just use this dash here, and then I'll use this little signifier to mark a subnote. This is one that I picked up from Lindsey Scribbles, I think a couple of years ago. So it won't go right under. You'll see it's kind of like a little indented bullet. And it's just whatever details that I want to add to the original note. Going along with notes, I do use a heart to capture what I consider a memory. This is a little bit harder for me to explain. I don't consciously decide which signifier I'm going to use. I think a memory is, well, obviously it's something that I want to remember. I do memory keep along with my planning. For me, it's all just one system. So for example, I walked to a plaza, I picked up a sushi lunch for myself. It was just a nice day. I like remembering that. I think it's anything that has kind of an emotional connection for me. So memories will often have subnotes underneath them as well. I like making lists. It's easier for me to retain information if it's in point form instead of in long sentences. It's always been that way for me. Oh, I'm realizing that I forgot a task signifier that I should have included up here. So let me add that now, and that is irrelevant. So I mentioned that sometimes the process of migrating from day to day to day, if you're a procrastinator like me, and sometimes it takes a while to get things done, can make you realize that this task is not actually important or worth spending time on right now. And if that's the case, I just strike through it here. So I do actually have an example of that. Oh, that was because this week I really wanted to pick up some Smile cookies for the Tim Hortons campaign, but I didn't make it in time and it ended. So I struck through that because it was completely irrelevant, not through my choice that time. Then we have events. So for me, I like to put my events in blue just because they stand out. And I will mark that with a circle, which is Ryder Carroll's default. And I have also added a sparkle for myself. And I don't really know what to call that because usually an event is something that is scheduled that I need to go to, but maybe not necessarily something that I'm really excited about. It's not something I'm dreading either, it just is. Whereas a sparkle is maybe I'll put special event. And that just to me is something that I am looking forward to. So for example, when I meet my friends downtown for a planner meetup, or I went to a wedding this summer, that is the time when I will use the sparkle. So you'll see here I went to a celebration of life, which I am glad I was able to attend that, but it's obviously kind of a somber event. Whereas these two Saturdays, I was able to go downtown and meet up with Maria and Lauren, so I did the sparkles for those. Sometimes if I have a specific day at work too, I might also put that in here, and it just works. I like to play around, and you'll also notice that these are colored in once they're completed. that's just another visual cue for me. So yeah, I don't think I need to mark that down, but just know that I do like to color these in once they're done. The other color coding I do is for appointments, which you will see here in red. So my appointment signifier is a triangle. And once again, I do color that in when the appointment is complete. So these you will see mostly in my monthly calendars, although I do typically put them in my daily logs as well, especially because I often like to add notes. So you'll see this is a great example of my signifier. I've colored it in, and I'm also using my bullet for subnotes here. So these are the only two that I use my color coding for, which is helpful because it really makes them stand out. To go along with appointment, I do use this little plus signifier for anything health related. This is another bullet that I picked up from Lindsey Scribbles. So usually I'll write down like if I have a headache, if I had a really bad sleep, if something's hurting, and then I'll use the subnote to add any details so that I have that for reference. And I think that the last bullet that I use straight from the bullet journal method is the priority signifier, which is just a little asterisk. So I will use this if there's anything that is really important coming up or I really need to stand out. And this will always go to the left of the bullet itself. So this does actually have a pencil as well. So if I have an important task that I need to get done that day, I might add a signifier here so that it really jumps out at me. So these are pretty much my base signifiers. These are the most important ones, the ones that I use the most often, and the ones that are also the most functional for me. It really does help me to be able to scan any of my logs and have an idea of what's going on, what I might be looking for, or anything like that. You can see here I had a bunch of incomplete tasks, and I just did a migration note there so I didn't have to do every single one. It's because a bunch of things were closed on that day and I didn't realize. You'll see a lot of memories, tasks, it's all mixed in. But I have added what I consider some fun signifiers just to help with my memory keeping. So I will draw just a little gift here for birthdays. That is self-explanatory. I like to keep track of what I'm watching on TV. So just a tiny TV show here. I also will include if I'm watching a movie. I will also add sometimes a $sign for anything money related. Usually it's spending or a purchase. I'll put spending, I think, for that one. Sometimes I will draw a little envelope for Happy Mail. Oh, and I did forget, this year I started a new practice. Actually, I've really gotten lost with it in August, but hopefully I will bring it back, where I started writing something I'm grateful for each day and something that was a win. So I added 2 new signifiers for that I completely forgot about. And the first one is a heart that is colored in, and that's something that I'm grateful for. So I'll put gratitude. And then I really couldn't figure out what to put for a win or a victory, but I ended up doing a little V. So I have that there just with the kind of dashes to make it not look just like a normal V I would write. And I have that for a win. I guess it could have been a W, but I was kind of picturing like victory. I don't know. Anyways, it has stuck. That, I think, is pretty much all of my signifiers and what you will see in my pages the most often. So we can take a look at a few of them to see them in action. We've already looked at my calendar. So I have birthdays here. In the summer, I use still the little event circle for my brother's baseball games, but I just did them in pencil because I didn't go to all of them. Blue is for the events that I know I am going to or going to do my best to get to. So this week is all tasks. So some are irrelevant, most are crossed off, a couple have been migrated here. I do day-specific tasks in my actual weekly overview in this planner. I also love to have a line separating my signifiers from my writing. I just find it makes it feel really clean to me and it's much easier for my eye to scan. So tasks, memories, notes, subnotes, what I was watching, my gratitude and win for that day. This one here, oh, I added a little light bulb here for planner thoughts. That's not a typical icon for me, but it's something I might just doodle in. Basically anything you'd see in a little icon sticker. Sometimes I just like to doodle it in. So we had a movie I was watching. I was keeping up here with my gratitude and my wins. Here I was iCloud, go through photos. Well, there's an example. Yes, I could not do that all in one chunk of time, unfortunately. So I have the little partially completed signifier here as well for clean desk. there you go. And then I had clean desk again here and I completed it. So just examples of how I might use it. Organized desk catch-all bin. Yeah. We'll see a lot of those things, I think. Another movie. We've got migrated. Oh, main bathroom. I think I ended up, yes, for this one, I scheduled for a different week because it was already Sunday. So here we do have an event. I mark it in the weekly and then in the daily as well. And then I actually have notes here with the subnotes. I'll have a little health one in there because I felt car sick for the first time in ages and that was not a welcome feeling. I'd forgotten how rough that can be. I had a headache here, poor sleep. Yeah, sometimes I get headaches over my right eye. And yeah, that is basically how my signifiers work in my planning system. I love it. I love all of the little doodles. Oh, look at this one. This one we were dog sitting our neighbor's dog. This is not obviously a signifier that I use on a regular basis, but it was fun to just doodle in that paw print, see what I was watching, see what I was up to, how I was feeling, what I was trying to get accomplished, and just have fun with it. Now that I'm going through this key really is the heart of my planning system. This is why I will often say that I plan in a bullet journal style, even though I am not technically using the full bullet journal method, which traditionally involves a blank notebook and your own spreads. But because I am still organizing my thoughts, my memories, my tasks, my events, everything in this style, this comes with me from planner to planner. I used this when I was in a Leuchtturm. I used this when I was in my Wonderland 222. I'm using it here in my Papertess designs, and I will continue to use it going forward because I just love how it organizes, well, my brain really. I like how I can break it down. It's simple, it's fast. I've done it for so long that it's second nature now when I'm putting pen to paper. And I just find it really helpful. I hope this was helpful. I hope it gave you a good idea of the signifiers I use and how I use them. And I would love to hear any other signifiers that you've incorporated that you have found work really well for you. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask down below. And thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. If you like this video, please feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.